All right. So hello everyone. This is Freddie Gillespie, Chair of the Open Space Preservation Commission. This is a remote meeting statement we're required to read before any of these meetings. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General GLC 30A 18, and the governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Southborough Open Space Preservation Commission will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and or parties with a right and or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the Town of Southborough's website at www.southborough.com. I'm missing something here. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to watch or participate in the meeting may do so in the following manner by finding the meeting at www.southborough.com/remote meetings. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so despite best efforts, we will post on Southborough's website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive recording of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. So that takes care of the beginning. I'm going to now move on to the agenda. I'm going to call the meeting to order, and I would like a roll call. I'm Freddie Gillespie, Chair of the Open Space Preservation Commission.
Karen Svikovich, committee member, present.
Sarah?
Sarah Rossitano, committee member, present.
Okay, and our first item is approve minutes, and I'm not prepared to do so now, so I'd like someone to, we'll just table that.
Sounds good.
Okay. And now we're going to review the planning board's decision for Stonebrook subdivision. These documents can be found, we posted them with our agenda on the notice of the meeting, and I believe it's in with our agenda online. I'm going to bring them up to share the screen, but I'm new at this, so bear with me. I'm trying to get back to the Zoom screen after looking at the agenda. Share screen. So first I want to bring up the document, make sure I have the right one, not be like Saturday Night Live. Mm-hmm. And we're going to look at the Stonebrook subdivision decision from the planning board. And let me see if I can do that. Share screen. Oh, there's a lot of stuff up there, which aren't on my screen, so
you'll probably see, Freddie, a few boxes, and usually it's the one in the upper left-hand corner that just says share screen versus sharing a program, which you don't want to do.
I don't want to do any of that. I wrote share screen. I clicked on that. It says share.
Mm-hmm. And do you see the bunch of boxes? Just click on the one that says.
Nope.
You don't see boxes. Okay.
I see boxes that open up. It's a big. Are you seeing that right now? I'm sorry for anyone paying attention.
No.
But this is new.
No, none of us can see it.
All right, that's good because I didn't want that. So I have screen, whiteboard, agenda. Wow, this is. show all windows maybe?
Freddie, if you have a lot of tabs open, yeah, it might be, further down. So if you do all windows, you can go through and that's everything that's open on your screen right now.
Try to, if anyone knows me, I have a lot of, keep a lot of windows open.
Me
and
too.
I spent time before this meeting shutting everything down. So,
Perfect. That looks great. We can see it now. It looks really good. Very
okay.
clear.
All right. So I'm going to go to the top. Is there anyone, because I'm not great at this, can anyone tell if there's anyone else at this meeting besides us?
There's nobody else. Well, there's 4 people at the meeting.
So that would be
So-
Melissa and the 3 of us. Okay.
That's correct. So nobody else has
Oh.
attended.
When I started the meeting, when I called the meeting to order, I didn't say the time.
I caught it at 1:03.
Thank you. All right. So this is the decision for the Stonebrook subdivision. And it was dated in 2013. And we've had a request from the project proponent to follow up on some of the requirements of the Open Space Preservation Commission. So to make sure we capture them all, we're going to go through this. Karen was nice enough yesterday to highlight wherever the Open Space Commission has an interest in here to make it easier. But so we're going to scroll down to the first open space.
So Freddie, just a pause here for process. So I do have the spreadsheet open that that you were nice enough to create. So for this particular item, what is the document? Because one of the challenges I'm going to have is that I can't see my spreadsheet at the same time that I see what you're sharing. I have to go back and forth. So I just want to capture the document. I just need a little moment to be able to do that. Okay.
The document is subdivision plan. So all you have to do is write the initial SD or subdivision. And all of these are going to be that for a while till we finish this one.
Great.
Okay.
And
we're
the
on
first
page,
item number.
The first item number is 5.
Yeah.
And we're on page 4 of 5.
Okay.
That's interesting because there's different number 4s in this document. Multiple documents were scanned together. So it says the open space areas as shown on said plan are subject to all restrictions for open space. Said language shall be referenced in all deeds of conveyance for the lot encompassed. So all of the deeds for all the lots have to have that. That's something we would like to check in with the planning board to confirm. I think they would be the ones. And if it's not the planning board, they can tell us who. Does that, we don't need to vote on this. It's just what next step we want to do to make sure it happened. So
perfect.
Do we agree? And then I'll just ask you both, you have to say your name and just say yes, or do we agree that that would be the correct course of action to check with the planning board that that had been done?
This is Karen Svikovich, and I agree.
This is Sarah Rossitano. I agree.
Okay. Then we're going down. Nice little check marks following me. I'm whipping through because we already know where they are. We didn't want to be reading each thing during this meeting. So thank you,
So in
Karen.
terms of action for that, we'll just say that we agreed that we need to follow up, correct?
No, sorry. It's a specific follow-up with the planning board. That one is to follow up with the planning board to ensure that it was done, right? So I think I made that one of the options if you wanted to number it.
Great. Planning board wasn't one. Oh, yes, it is one of the options. Yep, perfect. Okay, good. Also, that cool little green check mark. I figured out this morning that you can actually mark up documents when they're being shared over Zoom. So if that's helpful for us at any point, that's what's called a stamp. It's an annotation on the document.
Yes, you made it above and then it followed me.
Yeah, I know. So now
Oh.
I'm trying to figure out how to get rid of it. So
Now-
sorry about
Now
that.
we have two. All right. So
Yeah.
number 39 on page 5 of 15.
Okay, great.
Landscaping shall be in conformance with the landscaping plan. Such landscaping shall be maintained, repaired, and replaced in compliance with the landscape plan. This we want to follow up on, and it's not specific to open space here, but later you'll see why it's related to our native plant, native pollinator initiative. So I don't think we just want to make sure that that landscaping plan, it's not our role to check landscaping plans beyond the authority of the Open Space Commission or our interests. So
Yep.
that's just to know that they need to replace anything that's not in compliance. So that's just a pay attention to. That's not
So
in your checklist, but we just need to know.
would it be follow up with the planning board again, or just follow up?
There's no just follow up. Everyone is
Okay.
follow up with someone. I would say with planning board, we can do that.
Yeah, great. Okay, good.
So this is where it comes into play. Number 41 on the same page. The applicant shall comply with the requirements of the landscape plan. Without limitation, the planting of native wildflowers and milkweed in the septic area. So that is where we want to make sure that was done, because that was specifically at the request of the Open Space Commission back in the review process. They don't need lawn there. We want to make sure. So that would be follow up with the planning board and capital group. We'll ask capital group if they did plant that. We may want to do a site visit to check. So write SV for site visit,
Okay.
because it also says the landscaping, going back up to 39, that's why it's relevant. It shall be maintained or replaced. So if they didn't put it in, it needs to be replaced to meet the compliance with the plan. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Sarah, you get that? Why it's important? Okay. So this decision, when I read it, had a lot of really good language that we want to be familiar with. There haven't been any subdivisions that we've reviewed lately, but you know, once you have this kind of documentation, it's easier to request the same conditions again. All right, so 41 is, we're all set there, Karen?
Yep, all set.
Scrolling down, under number 59 on page 7. During construction, the land designated as open space on the plan, consisting of a total of 125,873,000 square feet of open space, shall remain continuously undisturbed. Anyone watching can read it themselves, or they can find the document online. I don't have to follow, I'm not required to read everything, but I want to point out that there was a bond for $3,500 as security, with all conditions of this decision which pertain to the open space. So we want to check with planning board if that $3,500 bond is in existence. And that's why it's important, because the building, the project proponent has put money up to say he's going to do all this, and it's up to us to make sure we do our job letting him get that money back if in effect he has complied, right?
Right.
So that's why this is an important reason for this meeting. So the next one is just to go back, number 59, we're following up to make sure
Following
to
up
see.
with planning board. To see if the $3,500 bond is in existence.
Right. And then for all of our other issues, we have to see, has it been done, so that at what point he gets his money back. We're not holding
Super.
that up.
Mhm.
Never, always our job to work cooperatively with developers and project proponents.
Absolutely.
So number 60. This comes into play because the condominium documents shall set forth the obligations towards the open space. So because that has to do with open space, that's a requirement for the return of the bond in my reading of this legal document. So we want to make sure that is in effect there. So that would be following up with the planning board or capital group. I kind of feel that it's the planning board's decision, so they probably need to be checking this out in addition to us. But the condominium documents, number 61.
Mhm.
They're
And sorry,
required.
60 and 61, what page number are they on?
8 of 15.
8 of 15.
So under 61, this lays out what the condominium association is required to do in their documents. So this is sort of a prior issue because the planning board had to approve the language before the issuance of a building permit. And the conditions require the officers to routinely engage in these activities in connection with the open space. So I don't know what level of follow-up we want here. Maybe that will be also to, after we go through the initial check through, we'll see what the plan is for the future. If they are even aware of this. So that might be, are there officers of the owners association? I don't know that the property's been fully sold out. I don't know when that comes into play. So we probably want to find that out. Can you have that reflected in the minutes?
So,
Aaron?
so if you were to paraphrase that, Freddie, so to check with the owners association, I'm sorry, how would you?
Is there an owners association? And if so, check that they're aware of this requirement. Communicate with them. I'm not completely sure when condominiums create an owners association when they're still in the development phase.
Yeah,
I don't know how many,
either.
I'm not sure how many units have been sold, if people are living there completely or not.
Okay.
So that's something we need to do. And that would be A is not really, that doesn't relate. You can't, that's not open space. A doesn't relate to open space. You can't replace trees and stuff in there. But B is semi-annually inspect the open space. So someone needs to be aware that they're doing some checking of it. There's no requirement on what they do with that. So that might be up to us to see if we want to create a process for the future.
Okay, I'll make a note of that.
I mean, here's a requirement to do something, but then what?
Yep.
C, I think A, B, C, D. And F are just, oh, and E and F. Those are for us just to follow up on with the condominium association. Maybe we send them a letter, are you aware? And we can decide that later. This is not, we just need to see the condominium documents, and then everything else is follow up with the association later. Does that read true to you both?
Yeah, I think we need to determine if it even exists at this point, and yes.
That's
I wonder, this is Karen speaking, should we write a letter to the condo association
I think first
to summarize these things, or?
I think our first goal is to find out if there is an association, and then we can decide what to do at our next meeting. How's that?
Super.
The
That sounds
actual
great.
letter. I don't want to get us too bogged down right now. For the Capital Group, what their requirement was to make sure that got in the condominium documents under number 61. We need to make sure that happened. And then if it's there, then we can follow up with what the condominium association is doing
Great.
after the fact, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Sarah, is that,
Yes.
you have to say your name?
This is Sarah.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. All right. F is to allow SOLF. That's just an FYI. It's not us, but we collaborate with the Open Land Foundation. So I had zipped them a note when I read this, so we don't have to do anything, but they can be aware of it. 59, individual deed units. So I think that would be follow up with the planning board. Did they check that?
And I'm just a little confused in terms of the linearness of this. Why did it go from 61 to 59? Is it a different document? That's 8 of 15. And so at this next page, is it 9 of 15, or maybe did the documents get out of order or something?
This is page 9 of 15.
Yeah, isn't that strange that 59 is coming after 61, but that's okay.
Well, then it goes to 62. So maybe there was an edit made that was a mistake.
Perhaps. Yeah, perhaps. Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't a different document.
Good catch, Karen. I always wondered why 59 comes between 61
and
yeah. There's a 59 on page 7 also. So make a note of that so that, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
So we just want to make sure that got done. Now we go to 62. Sorry, 67. 7 looked like a 2 to me. Fence markers. So the rebar markers shall all have cat marked OS and the fence. And it needs to be maintained. So we should put SV for site visit. Karen, next to that. It's the only way to assure that. So the question is, this here says they have to be maintained in perpetuity, but, you know, are they even there? That would be a good question. I'm sure somewhere else in a decision it required them. I'm not sure if we missed that or. Number 69 on page 10. This is for us to be aware that there are enforcement rights, and we have as agents of the town. Let me just see. We can monitor compliance. So this is for us to know. Now we're at number 70 on page 11.
So no action steps on 69, just informative. Is that right?
Yeah. Say that we should keep a notebook of what our not a notebook, but maybe we should have a little file on this subdivision and note that, so this is private property.
Yeah.
It's not a public road. So, this gives us, legal right if we wanted to access the open space. All right. One thing we had decided in the past, our commission is not an official inspection commission. We don't have the resources or staff or anything. So, but if something came up, someone complained, or there was a reason, we have the legal authority to do so following these guidelines, but not the requirement. And we are never an enforcement. We certainly choose, this gives us the ability to inspect, but we are never, ever an enforcement commission. We don't have that authority, nor did we ever desire it. I just want to be clear on that. Number 70, final location of the 20 sparkleberry bushes to be planted within the open space will be determined by a site walk with the developer and the Open Space Preservation Commission. Capital Group reached out to me, Danny Ruiz, their site manager, and then Bill DePietri, both have reached out asking about this. The first thing I noted was that sparkleberry is the cultivar of the winterberry native shrub. So I asked if they'd be willing to use the straight species, and they said they would. However, we need to write a letter to the planning board to approve that substitution, or to share our recommendation. It's the same plant, so I don't imagine that, I just don't see that this is an issue. Since this was written in, what did I say, 2007? The Open Space Commission has learned a lot about the fact that cultivars are not as good for the environment as the straight species. And we would not recommend a cultivar today. In fact, the planning board doesn't allow them in their most year and a half of recent permitting. So I don't see that's an issue, and they're on board. I'd like to request that they add making sure they have they come in female and male plants, and they need male plants for them to bear berries. So that would be good for them. But this is what we need to decide. With the coronavirus, it says a site walk with the developer and the commission. It doesn't say one member of the commission, doesn't say the commission without the developer. They had proposed leaving stakes that we could put in, or that one of us could meet with them, or one of us could put stakes in. So here's where it gets tricky. With social distancing, that, all of us together, we could do it we're less than 10. We could do it 6 feet apart, so we can decide if we want to. The restrictions are being removed on the 18th of May. We could wait till after that. Right now, there's nothing prohibiting this. What Bill had said to me is that construction is an essential service. I pointed out that the Open Space Preservation Commission is not construction, but we do not want to hold him up. And it just seems, it was important at the time that it got its own decision. I don't know, and I don't recall why it was put in that we had to do a site walk. I think we also want to be, before this is finally cleared that we do need to make sure the open space is in an undisturbed condition, so that we could do that at the same time. There's another condition further down that requires, and we'll get to it, or it's in another decision, about making sure they've removed all the invasive species. So I'm not sure how that would happen if we don't do a site walk. So finalizing this without doing that won't give them a clear cut A-OK. And I'm trying to think what alternatives there are. I was thinking first we could do a site walk, and if we want to do that.
So Freddie, this is Karen Svikovich speaking. I don't think it's necessary in any situation for the whole commission to have to do a site walk altogether, unless we wanted to, just because it would be interesting conversation. But especially in the middle of a pandemic, it seems like it doesn't make sense to get a group together. But I, for example, would be happy to do a site walk and take pictures and share it with you and Sarah, or one of others of us could do that with him and just wear a mask.
So this is Freddie again. I'll just put back that one, I get with the pandemic, but there's always a benefit in doing it as a commission. Because
for sure.
You're not, unless we're all there, we don't all see the same thing on site walks. Pictures aren't the same as being there. Sarah, did you have a take on that?
This is Sarah. I agree that in the next month, I don't think that it's necessary that we all go, but I am available.
All right, so how about if they have a landscape architect, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
How about if we make a recommendation that they put flags out where they're putting the trees, and we can go out and take a look. And then we can say okay or not okay. And do each of us have to go or not? Would that require another meeting for us to make that recommendation? What I'd like to do, the other thing is, I really feel we can't just say, make a side deal with the developer and then expect it to be okay. I don't see that the planning board would have any problem with this, but it needs to be done officially, because if you start making changes to a decision here, what's to say the next time somebody won't want to make a decision somewhere else? And even though I have no idea why this was in here now, it meant a lot back in the day that it made it to this legal document. So
you're saying, Freddie, just to make sure I captured this correctly, your suggestion is that we share a recommendation that they put a flag where they are planning on putting the trees? Is that what you said?
That Capital Group puts a flag in the open space, one flag for every bush. And we go out and check and count 20 and make sure, and then say yay or nay. And also be looking at the condition of the invasive species and looking for the, anything I had the SV. If there's invasives, does it look like the soil was disturbed? And does it look like the caps and the markers are there with saying open space? I think those are the three so far, but wherever this minutes reflect that there's a site visit required.
Okay.
So that we could go out and, while you're there looking at the markers, you would make sure that it's not been, like during construction, they didn't dump tree stumps and stuff into the open space that needs to be cleaned up. The problem is the open space is it all borders the wetlands. It's pretty much the you know, the 20-foot no touch alongside the wetlands around the property, and will make for very wet walking at this time. So I don't know how accessible it will be. And the question is, but does that make sense that we ask them to put the stakes in? I mean,
Yeah, that makes sense
I
to
don't
me. This is
think-
Karen speaking.
so this is Freddie again. If they put the 20 sparkleberry bushes in, I think, you know, maybe make a recommendation that they become the
The
winterberry, not the straight species, with including a male. And maybe in groups, so like not all 20 in the same area. Right? And then I guess the question is, do we even need to go and see where they're planning to put them, or can they just plant them? I have some level of trust if they put 20 in and they have a landscape architect and they're required to live, or the condo association has to replace them, they're going to put them in the best areas for the plant.
Yeah,
They're the
they will.
experts. And so that we could do a recommendation could be that we agree that they plant the 20 native winterberry in the open space where they feel best, and we will check that they got planted later.
Mhm.
Is Sarah? I can see you nodding.
I agree.
All right, because this is going to be a recommendation to the planning board, I think we should vote on it, because we're asking for a change to what is required in the site plan decision or subdivision decision. So how about if I say what I think it is and you can say so moved, or you can say it again, because I know I've been sort of all over the place here. That we will make a recommendation to the planning board that number 70 on page 11 of the subdivision decision for Stonebrook Village be satisfied by the project proponent planting 20 winterberry straight species within the open space
Versus the sparkleberry, right?
right. Determined by the project proponent. But with small groupings throughout the open space, not in one clump. And an appropriate number of male bushes for pollination purposes.
Okay, would you like me to make a motion with what I've just captured there that you've just?
Wait, one final thing, that the Open
Mm.
Space Commission will perform a site walk after they're planted. As either a commission or individually, depending on. I don't want to make, I don't know how you say that. As either a members, just write members of the Open Space Commission will. A member or members, how's that? Will perform a site walk after. And I don't know if it starts, but could we, did we start with because of the coronavirus pandemic? We make the following recommendation. So then
Well,
whenever.
the only
Go ahead.
part of this that's because of the virus is how we're handling the site walk, not our choice of winterberries versus sparkleberries, correct?
Correct. So read whatever you have that makes sense, and then you can make a motion.
Okay. So this is Karen Svikovich, and I'd like to make a motion around the recommendation to the planning board that number 70 of page 11 of the subdivision plan for Stonebrook Village be satisfied by the project proponent planting 20 winterberry straight species within the open space versus the listed sparkleberry determined by the project proponent, but with small groupings throughout the space versus in one clump, and an appropriate number of male bushes for pollination purposes. In addition, a member or members of the Open Space Commission will perform a site walk after they are planted.
Can you change subdivision plan to subdivision decision?
Yes. Changed.
So with that edit, is that your motion?
That's my motion. As edited.
And who are you?
Karen Svikovich.
Is there a second?
I, Sarah Rossitano, second that motion.
All in favor? You have to say your name.
Aye. Karen Svikovich agrees. Aye.
Sarah Rossitano agrees.
Freddie Gillespie agrees. Yes. So that passes unanimously. All right. I'm scrolling down to see if there's anything else here for open space.
And Freddie, on most of our action steps, I've put it into the spreadsheet, but because this is our first motion of our meeting, I've documented it in the Word document meeting minutes. Does that sound okay to you?
Correct. And the spreadsheet will be an attachment to the minutes. It's just easier than
Yes.
writing it out, I thought.
Yep, I think it was a great idea. Yeah.
All right, so we're done with this. We're done with this document. I'm going to move over to the site plan. Did that show up on your screen? I was prepared trying to make this easier, so.
Yeah, it did.
Is it there? Is this the decision of major
This is-
site plan?
This is the
approval?
site plan. Yep.
Okay. So if you're seeing that, again, we have the same process, and this will be much faster. I want to start, in case anyone's watching this, we had attached all the decisions and all the plans for this project. We are only going through the two that are relative to the Open Space Commission for us to make decisions on. Okay.
Great.
So I'm scrolling through the site plan. And the first number is on page 5 of 15, number 41.
All right, so
Okay, so the requirements in both these plans, there may be differences. A lot of them are going to be the exact same. So we just want to make sure we capture everything in case there was a difference. So in this one, the applicant shall comply with the requirements of the landscape plan. So the native wildflowers and milkweed again. So I would note, even though it's the same as above, Karen, that in the site plan, the same requirement was made. And we want to follow up that that was actually planted, okay? Are you set with
so
that?
so the action would be a site visit again.
A site visit and follow up with the project proponent. I can ask him that they did in fact plant this. But we still want to make sure it's there. This also requires the invasive species. And we have to follow up with the Conservation Commission. If you read this one, I don't know if it's the same as the other one, so. The Conservation Commission shall certify have been removed and issued before they issue a certificate of compliance. So hopefully they haven't issued that certificate yet, but we just want to bring it to their attention. This is a requirement. So what do you have for an action item under number 41, Karen?
So on number 41, on page 5 of 15, on the site plan, I just said site visit and follow up with the planning proponent.
And Conservation Commission.
Okay, good. Should I also make a note about following up around the invasive species, or is that
That's with the
implied?
conservation. That's with the Conservation Commission.
Yeah. Okay.
That's why we're following up with them. But yeah.
Okay, super.
Scrolling and scrolling. Number 50 on page 7. This is again that there was an open space bond in the amount of $3,500. And once all conditions in this approval regards to the open space, the bond can be released. So I think we may want to go through the requirements and see if they're a bond requirement. We don't have to do that today because we're going to have to do a site walk on the Winterberry later, right? So can you make a note for number 59?
For number 50, was there an action step? Sorry, before I go to 59?
50?
I thought it was 50.
No, 59. We're on 59.
59. Oh, I'm sorry.
On
So
59,
yeah, and what would you like the action to be?
for the Open Space Commission to go through all of the items in both decisions to see which ones are bond related so we can
Okay.
assure that nothing in our authority is not done and therefore holding it up, right?
Okay.
Like if they haven't done what needs to be done, that's on them, but we don't want to be not doing what we need to do so they can't finalize their project.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in number 60, that's the condominium documents again. I'm not sure. We need to, that's follow up with the planning board, because the rules and regulations shall be provided to the board. That's the planning board. And this is on page 8. 61 is what shall be in the condominium documents. And that's A, B, C, D, E. And that is just to be sure those are actually in their documents. I think before we said find out if there is a homeowners association, and if there is, to just, so it's the same. I think it's the exact same as before. I'm scrolling down because are you all set there, Karen?
Mm-hmm.
Sarah, do you agree with that?
Yes, this is Sarah. I agree.
Okay. Number 68, this is different, I think. They have to hire an engineer to inspect the stormwater and the open space. So the question is, how would we know if this was done, and how would we know if there was a problem that they actually restored, mitigated the problem?
So is that also something we want to add in terms of the follow-up?
Yeah, we need to follow up on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think,
Follow up with the capital group to
no.
find out if it was done?
Follow up with a letter to the owners association, if they have one yet. That would be it. That would be one of the conditions in that letter, to make them aware of, they're required to do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure find out who's in charge of stormwater management system inspection. Who certifies that happened? You know, do they report that to or is it just I don't know. So that's not us, following up, but we want to make sure somebody's doing it, if that makes, in my mind. Do you have a different opinion, anyone?
This is Karen. No, I agree with that.
Sarah?
This is Sarah. I agree. I don't know who that would be.
So we'll try to find out. 69. That's just giving us, again, the right, that's for us to be aware of, the right to go in and inspect. Number 70.
Have we moved to page 9 yet?
Sorry. 69 is on page
69
10.
and 70. 69 is on
69
page
is
10.
On page 10.
Great. And 70?
Okay, so did you get 69? That's just
Yeah,
for us to
got
be
it.
aware of? Okay.
Yeah.
70 is on page 11.
Page 11. Okay, great.
Can you make the same motion, but it's instead of the subdivision, it's number 70 on page 11 of the site plan? I did switch documents, right, guys?
You did.
Okay. Thank you.
So would you like me to give the exact same motion that I made above, but this is for number 70 on page 11 of the site plan?
Yes. Thank you.
So this is Karen Svikovich, and I'm making a motion to make a recommendation to the planning board that, interesting that it's the same number and the same page number. I see why you were questioning if you had a new document.
Can we just double check that?
Yeah, because it
Does-
seems quite coincidental.
Okay, I'm going to the top to make sure.
I wonder if it was just copied and pasted into the site plan.
Would have been. This says major site plan approval, right? I'm going to switch over to the one we started with, right?
Mhm.
And again, I'm going to number 70 on page 11. And it says, definitive subdivision. So yes, it's the exact same thing copied and pasted.
Okay. So
But
we probably
it's
don't
a
need a
different-
second motion?
Yeah, we
Or
do.
do
It's
we?
we do because it's a different decision. And to satisfy both decisions, I want two motions. I think it's redundant, but appropriate.
Excellent. So I'll do that. So this is Karen Svikovich, and I'm making a motion to for a recommendation to the planning board in regards to the site plan, and this is number 70 on page 11 of Stonebrook, the subdivision decision for Stonebrook Village, to be satisfied by the project proponent and the planting of 20 winterberry straight species with the open space versus the listed sparkleberry, determined by the project proponent, but with small groupings throughout the open space versus one clump, and an appropriate number of male bushes for pollination purposes. In addition, a member or members of the Open Space Commission will perform a site walk after they're planted.
This is Sarah Rossitano, and I second that motion.
And this is Freddie Gillespie.